Jade, what details have you got about this meeting?
Well, around 300 members of Congress tuned in to this video call earlier today to hear from Volodymyr Zelenskyy. According to those who took part, the Ukrainian president repeated his request for the United States to help enforce a no-fly zone over Ukraine to prevent Russian air attacks. This is something that NATO members have repeatedly ruled out, arguing that it would bring the alliance into direct conflict with Russia, something that it is not prepared to do. And indeed, Vladimir Putin has declared that any countries becoming involved in the implementation of a no-fly zone would be considered, in his view, to be active participants in this war. So while Ukraine is still calling for support there, Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that in the absence of a no-fly zone, he is appealing. He made a desperate plea, in the words of one US politician, for more fighter jets and drones. He wants to see more Russian-made aircraft being sent to Ukraine from other Eastern European nations, and he's also calling for sanctions to be imposed against Russia's oil and gas sector. Now, while lawmakers here were hearing that direct appeal from the Ukrainian president, there was also another meeting between the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and Ukraine's Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba. They met on the border between Ukraine and Poland, an area where refugees, mostly women and children, have been fleeing to safety. Dmytro Kuleba again reinforced that message, asking the United States for more support. And he had this message just ahead of that meeting about the situation on the ground in Ukraine.
Ukraine is bleeding, but Ukraine has not fallen and stands both feet on the ground. The Ukrainian armed forces and all forces of defense are defending the country in all directions. They have achieved some major successes over the past 24 hours, pushing back Russian invaders on the number of fronts. The myth of the unbeatable and almighty Russian army is already ruined.
That's the Ukrainian foreign minister there. Now, Jade, it does seem that Washington is stepping up its efforts against Russia, or actions against Russia. The US is now expelling a group of Russian diplomats. What's the latest on their movements?
Well, the US announced earlier this week that it was expelling 12 diplomats from Russia's mission to the United Nations, accusing them of espionage activities. Now, the White House insisted that this move had been in the works for months, but it's obviously come at a time of incredibly high tensions between the US and Russia, and Moscow immediately criticised this step as a hostile one. Now, the US has since closed its airspace to Russian flights, so the arrival of a Russian plane here in Washington drew a lot of attention. The State Department has said that it has made an exception so that those diplomats and their families who are being expelled from the US can leave the country by the deadline that they were given.
All right, Jade McMillan there reporting for us in Washington. Thank you.